Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I want to show you something that I'm very excited about, which is the beginnings of a framework that I've been developed for my own game. And yes, you heard that right, I'm finally developing my own game. This is something that I've been wanting to do for such a long time, right? Since I started to dream about working on games. This has always been the goal, to make my own games, right? So today I'm going to be talking about the beginnings of this game in a more development perspective. So I'm not gonna talk too much about like what the game is gonna be or gameplay and all this stuff. It's more like how I'm gonna build the game. And in the next videos, I'll be showing more of the game and the development and stuff. And but before I go ahead, I would like to take a few seconds, to send my sympathies to everyone that has been affected by the current layoffs. I've been there before with project cancellations, studio closures. In fact, I was just laid off during November. I know it sucks, depends on the situation, it sucks because you might feel rejected, like discarded, or like angry, like all those negative emotions that are natural when something like this happens, right? What I want to tell you is we can choose how we perceive the situations. When we perceive a situation in a negative manner, that will manifest in one way or another, through bad health, through depression, anger. It will drag you down. You will lose energy. And of course, like, we have to go through a moment of grief, right? It's totally normal. It's not about just like, oh yeah, whatever, right? The truth is the games industry is a very cyclical business, and it has its boom and bust phases. And right now we are caught up in the bust phase, and a lot of companies will probably go out of business in the next who knows how long. And I want to do some research on this topic very soon to create a video, because I think this is very interesting information. Since I started in the games industry in 2008, I think was my first full-time job, I've seen about 3 or 4 bubbles, So this happened before. I've seen this. And again, I'll talk more in the next videos. I don't want to drag too long on this. But anyways, don't feel so bad. Like after you've gone through the grief, you might find out that actually this is one of the best things that ever happened to you. It's definitely an opportunity. This is exactly what I'm doing now, right? So I was also caught up in a layoff, and I'm taking as an opportunity to do things that I would not be able to do if I was just employed, getting that salary every month. I decided to take some time off from the industry and really do some game development on my own. I've been missing working on games for a long time, because it feels like in the past few years I wasn't really working on games, but I was working on products. And this is a feeling that some of you might relate to. And I want to go back to the root of it all, like why did I become an environment artist? It's because I wanted to make games. So I want to get back to that. So I'm taking the Spanish town that I created and I put so much time already, and I'm gonna turn it into a game. If you want to know a bit more about this, there's my previous video about how I converted this project to Unity, where I get into a bit more specifics of why I did this conversion. But yeah, so I'm very excited about this new phase. I'm a huge sucker for old school games, from the NES, Super NES era, like PlayStation, Saturn. And whenever I discover facts, such as the one that Final Fantasy I was made mostly by one programmer, and Final Fantasy IV was made in 1 year by a team of 14 developers, tiny team. They made a classic. So it makes it clear to me that the current way of making games is severely broken, because now we have teams of like thousands and there is no game, it's just cutscenes and props and destruction and all this stuff that doesn't really make the game fun, right? And on top of that, like all this live service bullshit they have to put on top, to finance the development of the game. Because if you have 300, 400, 500 developers, you don't have much margin for error, right? So you need to have these mechanics to pay for the game. when we are on a smaller team with our own money is very different. I want to make something special, and I have my finances, right? I'm financing this out of my pocket, so I'm not gonna go crazy and start adding random features, just for the sake of it. I'm gonna be smart. And that's what the old time game developers had to be. They had to be very smart. They didn't have resources. The hardware was very low. They had only a few kilobytes of RAM, for all the textures and the characters and stuff. They had to do some miracles to get some of these old games to run. And now we have all these amazing tools. We should be able to make amazing games in at least the same time, as they used to do in the past. So out of that in mind, I set out to build like a simple game of my own in terms of mechanics. This is not going to be anything revolutionary in terms of mechanics. I think that's secondary because my focus will be on the immersion and creating an engaging experience. I want to put my ideas into fruition. I want to use my creativity. I want to create something that people will enjoy to spend time with, that will inspire their imagination, that will make them feel feelings, that they will want to complete the game, which is a feeling that I find so rare to have in games now. And usually I get this when I'm playing a game that I can feel that the developers put love and passion into it. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put all my love, all my passion, into this game for some months, and let's see what comes out. If something that people like comes out, it's cool. If no one cares, whatever, I'm gonna have a blast. That doesn't matter. To make this dream a reality, I've been diving deep into C# programming and Unity development. So this is something that I've been doing on and off for years, to be honest. But I never had the chance to dedicate myself fully. And boy, I have to tell you, it's insane how fast I'm learning now that I know how to learn something, right? Because I did environment art for so long. I learned the things that made my learning slow. I made a lot of mistakes in the past because it's normal. Like when you're learning something, you make mistakes. But like once you get really experienced in something, you learn how to learn. Now that I know how to manage my energy, my attention, my time, right? I can manage my time now. Like since I'm financing this project from my own pocket, I don't need to be stuck on freaking like Slack conversations all day or Zoom meetings, like annoying tasks, like all these things that really made me not want to work on games anymore because they just take so much time. They drain you, like 1 hour in a Zoom meeting that's it. I can't do any work in the day. I don't know why. It's something there is draining, soul draining, mind draining. It's horrible. Like we need to stop this. So anyway, but that's just my opinion. If you love Slack and stuff, like more power to you. So the way that I'm going to divide the work on this project is based on the same structure that I used on the very first game that I worked on site, which was Imagine Detective at Ubisoft São Paulo. I want to talk more about this game because it's very special for me and was an amazing experience. The first time I was in an office, working with people and made amazing friends there. And we made that game in 6 months. We got together on day one, new studio, new team. We didn't know each other yet. And we had 6 months to make a game. And we did it, It's not the most groundbreaking game, but it broke even. It sold enough copies to pay for the development. And there was actually quite a few fans. They were expecting like a second game where we would make it much better because we already made the first one. The second game would be much better, right? Sadly, the second game never came into fruition. So for that game, we divided the development in 3 phases. So concept, pre-production, and production. And I really love this, and I saw how effective it is. That's what I'm gonna do for this game too. I have about 6 months to work on it. I put myself that I'm in concept and pre-production phase until the end of March, roughly. Honestly, I'll shoot for the end of February to get most of the pre-production stuff done. And then I'm gonna have 3 months to make the rest of the content that I'm gonna have to create, which is writing some dialogues, making more environment art, making new maps, and but I want to have the framework that allows me to display a message on screen, to change a map, like to travel from one map to another, to have maybe battles, who knows, like a fail state, I think it's important for games to have a fail state too. Yeah, so now I'm in this hybrid phase of concept and pre-production, and I've been figuring out the game on my sketchbook. So doing a lot of drawings, a lot of sketches, and like just thinking about the code and stuff. The last thing I want to say before we move on is that, contrary to popular belief, if you want to make your own game, you can't just pick up an engine, hook up a few nodes, and it all works. Like, well, you can, like if you pick up some existing solution, the asset store, and and you work in those constraints, you can do that. But that's not the approach that I want to take. I want to make an actual game. I want to do actual game dev. If I have an idea, I want to be able to integrate that into the game seamlessly. And the only way to do this is if I know deeply the architecture of the game. That's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I want to show you the very humble beginnings of my own framework that for now I'm just calling it like TK framework. I'll find some better name for this later. The idea from this came from, like, if you look at how some of the old games were developed, they were a series of games and they were built on top of each other. So for example, King's Quest 6, which is a huge reference for me in this game because I freaking love this game and I want to make a video about how amazing this game is. That game was built on a Sierra framework. They created a framework for those types of games. That's what I'm seeking here, like this framework I'm gonna use for all other games that I want to develop. And my main idea is for a JRPG game. So this is already the beginnings of that. I'm gonna be building this over years. So I really see this as a long-term project. I'm not just coding the Spanish town, I'm making the framework that I'm gonna use to make a game with the Spanish town. Without further ado, let's just jump right into what this framework does so far, and I hope this video makes the actual process of game development a little less mystifying to you. Alright, so let's see what I got so far. Let's launch the game here. And so at first I only have a logo and then it fades out and I go to the main menu. But this is all real. This is not like a mock-up. This is the actual scene that I'm gonna develop the game. I still need to create the settings menu, the configuration menu, but that will come a little later. So right now I can create a new game, and what it's doing is switching to another level, right? So you imagine this is the Spanish town level, and you can go inside the church, the apartment, like an apartment and a villa. So these are the other areas that I want to build in the map, and I needed to figure out a way to go from one level to another and to recreate the necessary elements for each level, and you will see this in more detail soon. So right now it's very simple. I can go from one level to another one. So if you look up here, there is a visit counter. So I go to the apartment, it plays this fade animation. You see, like, so this is just a variable that I'm saving. So this was something that I created just to learn how to save and read the information. And this is a system that I'm still need to develop more, but it works. So if, for example, if I go to the villa, this imagine this is another map. I can go to the church, hallways. So if I press escape, I get the in-game menu and I can save here. So this was pretty cool to make, like this, the little animations, and I'll show you. This kind of stuff is pretty easy to make in Unity. So I saved, and I can go back to the main menu, and if I do a new game, it's gonna reset all those variables. So you see the visit counter went to 1, and if I load, it's gonna load the last level that I was, and also all the variables that I'm tracking. So I created the save system and I track some stuff there. So that's pretty much what the framework's doing now, and let's see behind the scenes exactly what's happening. So first, my main goal is I want to be able to just have one object in the level that handles all the level initialization stuff. So I don't want to have a player prefab, like none of that stuff in the level. So the only thing that I have is this object that I created, the level director. And the level director has an scriptable object that holds the information for each level. So when I create a new level, for example, the church interior, I create a new scriptable object with the same name, and then I just tell here like, okay, which level is this and which type of level is this, and then this information I'm gonna use in my code. So if it's an exploration level type, it will spawn the in-game menu object. So if you look here, in-game menu, so this object handles that escape. So if I disable this, it doesn't work, but if I enable it, then it works. But this is not something that I want to have on the main menu, of course, right? So that's why I have this toggle. Oh, and ignore this because I'm still working on this system here. So if I disable this and I had an environment here, the code doesn't care. Like all it looks at is it the level director. So when I go to the next level, so for example, when I click on Spanish Town, it's gonna load the Spanish Town level. So the Spanish Town level also has the level director, right? And then it has its own scriptable object. And the really cool thing about building the game this way is, for example, like now I'm working on the spawn point management, because I'm gonna need to have a way to choose which spawn point to spawn the player, right? So if the player goes inside the apartment here and it needs to come out, this is a different spawn than it would be if it was here, right? So I need to keep track of this. So I'm working on this now. And because every level has this object, the level director, I can just go to that script and I add this option here at the top, require component, spawn point manager. So each time this script is dropped, is the level director, it creates the spawn point. So for example, if we do this, level director, it creates the spawn point management, which is required, right? So then I can just do all the spawn logic here. So this is still a work in progress. I still didn't finish it. That's why I was getting that error there. But basically, like if you can't find a valid spawn point, it's just gonna give an error message, and else it's gonna instantiate my player prefab. And I already created function for that. It's this one, initialize player prefab, and I created like a system here to instantiate the objects in the scene, because when you go from one level to another, the objects, they get removed, right? But some objects, I want them to always be on the scene. For example, when we run the game here, I have this object called the data persistent objects, and this is where I'm saving all the save data. So you see like the times visited, I can update this, and then it updates there. And this object needs to be created at start, when the game starts or when it's first needed. So I needed to have that code that will always spawn this object. So like from there, I can build more systems, and maybe there's an easier way to do this. Like, doesn't matter, because I only have a few levels and a few spawn points. So as long as I don't have to add more code, you know, if I add another level, I think it's a good pattern. So right now, the only thing I'm gonna have to do is to create those spawn points. So they will be just like in spawn point, that's it. And then I have to register them to the level director here, which is what you see here. Of course, this is not very exciting yet, but I was having a hard time visualizing this when I was working on the level itself. So that's why that I created this simplified flow that I can go from one level to another at this level here. And you see like that's another level, but some objects, they stay. For example, the camera's transition. This is the object that handles the fade. So I basically just issue a command to that fade. So yeah, I hope this was interesting and enjoyable, and the next videos hopefully will be a bit more exciting. So see you in the next one. At start, when the game starts or when it's first needed. So I needed to have that code that will always spawn this object. So like from there I can build more systems, and maybe there's an easier way to do this. Like, doesn't matter, because I only have a few levels and a few spawn points. So as long as I don't have to add more code, if I add another level, I think it's a good pattern. So right now, the only thing I'm gonna have to do is to create those spawn points. So they will be just like in spawn point, that's it. And then I have to register them to the level director here, which is what you see here. But I hope that this was interesting. Of course, this is not very exciting yet, but I was having a hard time visualizing this when I was working on the level itself. So that's why that I created this simplified flow that I can go from one level to another at this level here. And you see like that's another level, but some objects, they stay. For example, the camera's transition. This is the object that handles the fade. So I basically just issue a command to that fade. So yeah, I hope this was interesting and enjoyable, and the next videos hopefully will be a bit more exciting. So see you in the next one. Hey, if you enjoyed this video and you're looking to step up your environment art skills, I invite you to check my environment art creation course, Environment Art Mastery. This is a massive course that took me more than 2 years to put together, and contains everything that I learned about environment art creation after more than a decade in the games industry. The course contains everything you need to know to be able to come up with your own ideas and take them to completion by using an easy to follow process that breaks down the creative process in logic steps. This process can be used to create all kinds of environments, no matter the style, theme, or engine. If you want to know more, visit environmentartmastery.com or watch the deep dive video in my channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video.